So it was really close to the whole citizenship argument. I thought was strange, and I'd heard that too. She's not the only U.S. joint citizen. You know, there was a lot of them in the media. One guy named Boris Jordan, who was basically the yes man that they put in to take over NTV. You know, I mean, the guy had U.S. citizenship and Russian citizenship. There were rumors that they revoked his U.S. citizenship to keep him there. But there were so many standards being applied to those who criticized the government that weren't necessarily applied to guys like Jordan, who had a bunch of thugs who followed around and beat you up if you asked questions of them. So, and I saw that debate kind of coalesce, I'm trying to be really short, around two issues. One's the Kosovo War. And to me, the Kosovo War fairly much discredited kind of the American model that was coming in, because you saw a bias, you know, in just instances like the reports that the troops were late going into the Kosovo region because Clinton was on the phone with CNN waiting for the CNN cameraman. And I believe that because my Ukrainian cameraman was there, based in there. And they had no idea really what was going on in that war at all. My boss at the time was the one that translated for the handover of the airstrip, because the American media had no idea, the American military had no idea that a Russian force might decide to cross over and take over the airstrip, which if you're a military expert, I'm not, but I know an airstrip's a strategic point. Then also the American media, we would see these reports, and a lot of good reporting was being done by papers like, there's this one called Zaftar and Din, I don't know if Din's still published anymore. Really, I mean, these are the bad guys, right-wing, hating, extremist, racist papers. But they also loved the Kosovo mercenaries. And they would come back, the Russian mercenaries would come back and report there, and you would get a side that I wasn't seeing in the media. And when you read that stuff day in and day out, you know, about the atrocities basically that's going on against the Serbian people as well, and they get collaborated in photos. And you read that, and then it doesn't become a surprise that the US military, 1, bombs a maternity ward, 2, bombs a television station overnight, 3, bombs the Chinese embassy. Oops. You know, and I think a lot of people, including the guy who was a colleague of mine in AP at the time, went over and founded Russia Today. Their politics took a really right-wing turn at that time. And I think that explains a lot about Russia Today, that it's intentionally biased. Yes, it is. And to us, it looks like, you know, basically they've sold out. They're whoring for the Russian government. But then I think there's a very strategic argument being made, but yeah, CNN does that. Look at Fox News, and then we just need to present an alternative side. If we're going to tap and tag to Putin, it's just going to counter out what else is going on. The other one, of course, was the Chechen War. And you know, I think there's a huge model that what started out as the Yastrzemski press office was a very big emphasis on professional. You have to be a professional journalist in order to go into Chechen. You have to have accreditation. And they would send accreditation, they would require, you know, your documents, and the whole visa process became even much more complicated, and the accreditation process became accredited. And it was on the emphasis that we only want professionals down there. It's dangerous. People like Politkovsky couldn't go down. But again and again, the best reporting, the people we tapped because we can go in there, were people like Andrei Babitsky, you know, basically one of your old type Russian journalists that wouldn't mind drinking on the job and had incredible good videos from Mossad, incredible good fighting videos, and he knew the people down there. You had Nouvelle Gazette run a series, and I forget the guy's name, but it was a French philosopher that just came in and decided, well, I've heard all this about Chechnya, they can't report it, I'm going to go see if I can go. And so what does he do? He goes. He stays for 2 to 3 weeks, comes back with great reports. So I think the amateurs won again and again on that, and I think it's important to think of when we train, and I've spoken at a few of classes at Bart's, and I kind of wonder, you know, when we talk about the professionalization, professional training of people in the area of Russia and in the area of Russian journalism, I think there needs to be an emphasis on some points about not necessarily emphasizing the professional credentials, if that makes sense. And when I've been in his class and taught, you know, you're kind of wondering, like you, like, are they listening, et cetera? But then looking back, I remember some of my best connections came through, like I was here auditing between jobs. I took a course with Masha Kip who was a theater teacher, and her connections got me a Radzinski interview, which was brilliant. I got an interview with the Alexei II just because I checked in with my Russian teacher on, you know, the proper way to address the you know, basically the Russian Orthodox equivalent of the Pope. So, you know, I think there's an argument there for not professionalization, and it scares me. Like when yesterday I heard Hillary Clinton talk about Al Jazeera being the model. And first I was like, yeah, right on. You know, no talking heads, go with straight news. And then she goes in and she compares the Chinese news service and the Russia Today news service as a model. And I was thinking it's all again about the professionalization, the extreme professionalization and the extreme accreditation. And that, I guess, in the whole Clinton government kind of bothered me. It brought up feelings again of standing there, right at the end of the Kosovo War, following around. I was at Finland with the negotiations between Sergeyev and Madeleine Albright and Ed Cohen, I think was the U.S. Department of Defense guy then. And then there was James Rubin. James Rubin was the U.S. Department of State spokesman. Wouldn't talk to you unless you're a U.S. accredited journalist. Would give briefings, and then he'd go, "Oh, by the way, this is off record for international press." And you're like, dude, you're standing 5 feet away from an ice cream vending place. This is public property. And all the American journalists, but they were afraid because they knew they could get cut off from access to him. And then, James Rubin, who was he married to? Christine Omnibor, the CNN head. So, I saw a lot of things going on, and I had more sympathy towards kind of the grassroots journalism. And if you look at Russia Today, and this is a question I would throw it out to him too, but like the people that I still read right now, like Echo Moskvy, News.com, and then we were talking about this new journal, Snob. It's basically non-journalists that have assimilated the rules of journalists that somehow or another through agencies were able to get the training and come through. And so I thought that was the most exciting thing, and I think that's kind of, if the future, maybe the best hope of Russian journalism, rather than becoming more professional, more accredited, is to take the standards and just keep on with this great education program like ErGGU or NGU that they have, and to apply that. So that's me.
Thank you all. Will you take a few questions?